The horse was defecating in my living room when my son called for the third time that morning. From my suite at the Four Seasons in Denver, I watched through my phone screen, champagne in hand, as Scout, my most temperamental stallion, knocked over Sabrina's Louis Vuitton luggage with his tail. The timing was divine, almost poetic justice. But before that glorious chaos, there was the peace I had spent a lifetime earning, the dream my late husband Adam and I had built from scratch, and the arrogance of a son who thought he could take it all away. 3 days earlier, my world had been quiet, beautiful, and mine. At 67, after 43 years of marriage and 4 decades as a senior accountant in Chicago, I had finally retired to the Montana ranch Adam and I had always dreamed of. He'd been gone 2 years. Cancer had taken him slowly, then all at once. And with him had gone my last reason to tolerate the city's noise and expectations. So I left. The 80-acre ranch became my refuge in mornings, with coffee on the wraparound porch, watching mist rise from the valley while my horses grazed, evenings filled with crickets and the wind through pines. The silence wasn't empty. It was alive. Then my phone rang. My son Scott, real estate mogul, city slicker, and professional disappointment appeared on the screen, grinning with those perfect veneers. "Mom, great news," he said. "Sabrina and I are coming to visit the ranch this weekend, and Sabrina's family can't wait to see it. 10 of us, total." The pitchfork slipped from my hand. 10, I repeated, trying to keep my voice even. "You've got all those empty bedrooms," he said. "We'll make it a family gathering." Dad would have wanted that. His tone had that polished confidence I used to admire when he was young, before success made him cruel. He ended with the line that sealed his fate. "If you can't handle it, maybe it's time to move back to civilization. We'll take care of the ranch for you." He hung up before I could respond. I stood in the barn, phone in hand, feeling my blood turn cold. "Take care of the ranch for me." Adam's voice echoed in my memory. "Never underestimate our son's sense of entitlement, Gail." He'd said it jokingly once. I hadn't listened. But as thunder, my black stallion snorted from his stall, something inside me clicked. "You're right, boy," I whispered. "They want authentic ranch life. Let's give them authentic ranch life." That afternoon, I called Tom and Miguel, my ranch hands, loyal men who had been with the property for 15 years. When I told them my plan, Tom laughed so hard I thought the phone would crackle. "It would be our pleasure, Mrs. Morrison," he said. Then I called Ruth, my best friend since college. "Pack a bag," she said. "Four Seasons has a spa special. We'll watch the show from Denver." And so, Operation Authentic Ranch Life began. I stripped the guest rooms of all luxury. Out went the Egyptian cotton, in came scratchy wool blankets and sandpaper towels. I reset the thermostat in the guest wing to 58 degrees at night and 79 during the day, citing old house quirks. I hid the Wi-Fi router in the safe, removed the good coffee, replaced it with decaf, and stocked the pantry with canned beans, powdered milk, and stale crackers. But the pièce de résistance was what I did Thursday night. Under Adam's framed photo, I whispered, "You said Scott needed to learn consequences. Consider this his graduate course." With Tom and Miguel's help, we led Scout Bella and Thunder right into the house. They were calm, almost complicit. A little hay in the living room, a few oats in the kitchen, and nature would handle the rest. By dawn Friday, the stage was set. I drove to Denver, leaving behind 3 horses, a sabotaged thermostat, and hidden cameras streaming live to my phone. By the time Scott's BMW pulled into the driveway, Ruth and I were in plush robes sipping mimosas and watching the feed. The convoy behind him was everything I'd imagined: SUVs, gleaming people in designer sunglasses, stepping out as if they'd arrived for a magazine shoot. Sabrina wore 5-inch heels. Her mother, Patricia, wore white linen pants. Her sisters and cousins clutched iced lattes. God, it smells like manure out here, Sabrina said on camera. Ruth nearly fell off the bed laughing. Oh, Gail, this is art. Scott found the spare key under Adam's old ceramic frog. He opened the door, and the symphony began. Sabrina's scream could have shattered crystal. Scout stood majestically in the foyer, tail swishing, as he redecorated my Persian rug. Bella was in the living room, chewing on Sabrina's Hermes scarf, while Thunder sauntered in from the kitchen, knocking over the vase Adam had made for our 40th anniversary. Mom, there are horses in your house, Scott shouted when he finally reached me. What? I gasped. Oh, dear. They must have gotten out of the pasture. Tom and Miguel are out of town. You'll have to handle it, sweetheart. Just lead them back. Use the halters in the barn. They're destroying everything. Take deep breaths, honey. I'm sure you'll manage. Love you. I hung up and turned off my phone. Ruth raised her glass. To consequences, she toasted. For the next 3 hours, we watched as chaos bloomed like a field of wildflowers. Brett tried to grab Scout's mane and got sneezed on. Connor chased Bella with a broom and ended up cornered on the couch. Patricia's pristine linen pants met an unfortunate end. When Maria's boyfriend announced he'd go for a swim, Ruth and I leaned forward in unison. His scream when he saw the algae-filled swamp that had once been my infinity pool nearly sent us both to the hospital, laughing. By nightfall, my uninvited guests were huddled in freezing rooms, wrapped in musty wool blankets, trying to sleep through the smell of livestock and the sound of horses investigating the pantry. I sipped champagne and checked the final note I'd left for them under the coffee maker: welcome to authentic ranch life. Rooster crows at 4:30 a.m. Sharp. Enjoy your stay. By Saturday morning, my phone was full of missed calls, texts, and one tearful voicemail from Sabrina. Your horses are monsters, Gail. The house smells like a barn. Ruth replayed it twice, giggling like a teenager. At 5:12 a.m., the live feed showed Scott trudging through the yard in an unbuttoned designer shirt, dragging a feed bucket and cursing under his breath. They're city people, Ruth said, sipping her latte. They don't even know horses poop every 20 minutes. I leaned back satisfied. They wanted rural authenticity. I'm just a generous hostess. By midday, the novelty had worn off for them. The thermostat battle began. Sabrina's mother wrapped in 3 scarves while her sister fanned herself with a magazine. The Wi-Fi search came next. I watched Scott pull cables, check outlets, and finally bang the router cabinet in frustration. No internet. Patricia groaned. How are we supposed to post this nightmare? Maybe just experience it, I muttered at the screen. Then came the coffee incident. Sabrina discovered the decaf switcheroo. It's like drinking dirt, she wailed. Scott's cousin Brett found the powdered milk and nearly gagged. My ranch hands deserved Oscars for this level of mischief. By sunset, my uninvited guests had moved from mild irritation to open warfare. We'll leave first thing tomorrow, Patricia declared. This place is uninhabitable. But fate, or rather the sprinkler system, had other plans. See, I'd forgotten to mention one final adjustment I'd made before leaving. The irrigation timer still followed the old schedule Adam had set: 300 a.m. sharp, every zone at once. The system hadn't been used all week due to the dry spell. When it finally roared to life, the pressure was spectacular. The cameras caught it perfectly. Scott's luxury SUVs gleaming under the porch lights. was suddenly blasted by icy water from all sides. In the chaos, someone screamed. Someone else slipped on the mud. The horses, startled by the hissing sprinklers, galloped around the yard in majestic panic. Ruth almost choked on her mimosa. "Gail," she gasped between laughs, "you're going straight to heaven for this." After a very long confession, by morning, the house looked like a war zone. Muddy footprints, overturned suitcases, a faint smell of hay and regret. The guests loaded into their soaked vehicles, muttering like a defeated army. Scout watched from the porch, chewing on what appeared to be Sabrina's cashmere wrap. Scott called one last time before leaving. "Mom, we're done. We're heading back to Chicago. I hope you're happy." I smiled. "More than you can imagine, sweetheart." When I returned Sunday evening, the ranch was quiet again. The air smelled of pine and freedom. I thanked Tom and Miguel with cash bonuses that made them grin like bandits. "You think they'll come back?" Tom asked. "Not unless Wi-Fi grows in hay bales," I said. But peace, as always, was short-lived. On Tuesday, a certified letter arrived from Reynolds and Phelps attorneys at law. Inside was a neatly typed note from my son's lawyers. "We request immediate discussion of property transfer options in light of recent safety incidents at the Morrison Ranch." Ruth read it aloud and snorted. "They're threatening you because your horses exist." "Oh no," I said, smiling thinly. "They're declaring war." The next morning, I put on my old power suit, the one I hadn't worn since my last day at the accounting firm, and drove into Bozeman to meet with my own attorney, Carl Jenkins. He was in his 70s, wore bolo ties, and had a mind sharper than barbed wire. After skimming the letter, he chuckled. "They don't have a leg to stand on, Gail. This property's in your name alone, and your son's fancy lawyers can't force a sale unless you're declared incompetent, which, given recent events, you're clearly not. Then let's make sure they understand that I said." The next day I drafted a response. "Polite, professional, lethal. Dear Mr. Reynolds and Associates, I appreciate your concern for my safety incidents. Please rest assured that all livestock involved are in excellent health and continue to provide me with companionship and fertilizer. As for the ranch, I am not interested in transferring ownership, partial or otherwise. P.S. Kindly remind my son that if he wishes to visit again, he may bring no more than 2 guests, must participate in barn duties, and is responsible for any damages caused by overconfident in-laws or designer luggage. Warm regards, Gail Morrison." When I mailed it, Ruth said, "You didn't just draw a line, you fenced it, branded it, and installed an electric gate." Weeks passed before I heard from Scott again. This time, his tone was different. Humble, almost. "Mom, I overreacted," he said. "Maybe we shouldn't have brought everyone." "Maybe," I replied. He sighed. "Can I come back?" "Just me? No crowd," I pretended to think. "Only if you're willing to work. Horses don't feed themselves." "Deal," he said quickly. And that's how 3 months later, I found myself standing beside my son in the cold morning light, handing him a pitchfork. He looked ridiculous in borrowed boots, but his face softened when thunder nuzzled his shoulder. "He's calmer than I expected," Scott said. "They respond to energy," I told him. "The calmer you are, the more they trust you." For a long moment, we worked in silence, just the sound of hay, rustling, the steady breath of horses, and the faint wind through pine. Finally, he said, "Dad would have liked this." "Yes," I said quietly. "He would have. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. But it was a start." When Ruth came by later that week, she found me leaning on the fence, watching Scott shovel manure with an expression that was part suffering, part enlightenment. "Redemption looks good on him," she said. I smiled. "So does humility." And when the sun dipped behind the hills and the ranch glowed gold and quiet again, I realized something Adam had always tried to teach me. Peace isn't the absence of people, it's the presence of boundaries. I'd finally learned both.